first meeting between Georgia and Auburn, with Alabama versus Mississippi State to follow. With Aaron Taylor, Ginny Dell, I'm Carter Blackburn. A lot of people expected Georgia and Auburn to be meeting up in Atlanta for the SEC Championship. That's not going to happen. This is the only meeting between Georgia and Auburn today.
Yeah, when you look at games like this, the oldest cliche in football is to throw out the records. Well, that may be no more true than we're going to see today. But these games are important to the players. They're meaningful. They're more physical. And because of that, I expect to see a game today where both of these teams bring their best.
There's a lot of pressure on every SEC football coach, but the reality for Mark Richt is that pressure is growing at Georgia.
These teams should be proud of themselves. Both of them got themselves off the mat, but rightly or wrongly, today's outcome could impact whether or not Mark Richt is Georgia's head coach next year. And for Gus Malzahn, back-to-back wins would be just the momentum he needs to point to what could be a very prosperous 2016.
It is the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Back to 1892, Georgia versus Auburn. It is the 119th football meeting between the Bulldogs and the Tigers.
Let's it go!
Among the stories about the origin of War Eagle, that famous Auburn chant, it was first called out in that meeting between these two in 1892 in Atlanta. This is meeting number 119 between Georgia and Auburn. Auburn won the opening toss, takes the opening kickoff, and it will be a touchback. Tigers will get it at the 25-yard line, which means as we look at our Chick-fil-A starting lineups, we begin with the Auburn offense. It was almost a game-time decision, but Jeremy Johnson, you go all the way back to the summer. This was talked about as Jeremy Johnson, the Heisman Trophy candidate, leading an SEC contender. Hasn't matched the script. Benched after 3 weeks, but redemption a week ago with a solid performance in the win at Texas A&M, and another opportunity today for the junior from Montgomery as the starting quarterback for Auburn. Last week in the win over Texas A&M, 52 rushes. Start off with a screen, complete. Peyton Barber is going to take it across the 30. Looks like a gain of 6 for Auburn. We look at the Auburn offense.
Carter, you mentioned quarterback Jeremy Johnson, but Auburn's also coming off a season-high rushing average of 311 yards, so left tackle Sean Coleman and the rest of that O-line has to get it done.
It will be a hurry-up all day. Swing complete to the outside on second down to Davis. We look at the Georgia defense.
Well, when you look at this Georgia team all season long, when they've won, their defense has played well. So keep your eye on number 51, Jake Gaines, the middle linebacker. He told us in our meetings this week, I have to be disciplined with our eyes. They try to confuse you. We have to read our keys and do our job.
Quickly to third and short for the Tigers. Johnson hands off, and Auburn moves the chains. Barber converts. Jordan Jenkins on the stop, and now we'll see Auburn start to get it rolling.
They tend to roll after they get that big first down. They want to hit the gas pedal. Look at this formation here. They're going to break the huddle and snap the football extremely quickly. Georgia has to make sure that it's ready. Look at it right here. It's that formation. They come out of it and they snap the ball as quickly as they can.
Hand off. No gain. That's Robinson, Javon Robinson. Chris Mays there on the stop. We'll see a lot of different looks from Auburn today. Look at the play selection as both of these teams went back to pounding it on the ground in wins last week.
And I think we're going to see a little bit more of that today. Both of these teams want to establish the run, but I don't think, Carter, both of these offenses are good enough to sustain 12-play drives consistently through the game, so look for big plays to be a difference today.
It's Robert Left there at left tackle, as you said, and most likely, most of the time, we've been seeing him wearing 98 this year. Johnson to throw. Ricardo Lewis has it. Lewis picks up 8. Gain is there on the stop.
Carter, one of the things you'll notice about this Auburn offense, I call it kind of an amoeba offense because they expand and contract, expand and contract. They work the perimeter and like to come right back up inside to keep defenses off balance.
On 3rd and 1, already a third down conversion for Auburn. Make it 2 third down conversions. Peyton Barber pushes the pile across midfield. Chris Mays leads the way for the Georgia defenders.
That's just going to be a weak side inside zone. Nice job that time by the backup left tackle, Robert Leff. They showed some confidence in him by running that play upside, but that was a perfect example of what we talked about. Auburn's going to do that all afternoon long. They're going to stress you out on the perimeter and then gash you up inside.
There will be a lot of tricks probably from both sides today. Tripped in the backfield, but continuing on and turning the corner inside the 25-yard line. As Auburn rolls downfield on the opening possession, Javon Robinson picks up 24. Mauger finally makes the stop.
And this is where Auburn likes to be able to hit the gas pedal. Javon Robinson has good eyes and vision to bounce at the outside. That acceleration and burst is what was responsible for that huge pickup.
Lewis in motion on 1st down. Jeremy Johnson's going to turn and hand to Robinson again. Robinson, who has played a much bigger role for Auburn in the last couple of weeks, including in the big victory last week at Texas A&M. Look at how these two teams mirrored what they did to get back, as you said, off the mat.
It's unbelievable how closely aligned both of these teams are. I don't know if you and I have ever called a game between two more evenly matched teams. I think today's going to come down to pride and execution.
Talked about how, yeah, there's a lot of tradition, and for the fans it's big, but for these players as well, it's real. Lewis on 2nd down, gets to the edge. Lewis on the carry inside the 10. Gaines makes the stop. 1st and goal, Auburn.
Nice job that time by Peyton Barber getting out in front on the speed sweep to the outside. One of the things I've been impressed with Auburn is their ability to block on the perimeter. That really helps this offense go.
Johnson, quick hitter. Lewis on the outside again. This time the Dogs ready for him.
No sooner do I say that than Cameron Petway, number 36, misses a block out there in the flat.
Jordan Jenkins finishes it off. 2nd and goal. Gus Malzahn and Red Lashley share the play calling duties, but last week and this week, Red Lashley, primary play caller for Auburn.
Auburn's not very good in the red zone on both sides of the football. They started out that game last week against Texas A&M with 2 touchdowns, but were forced to kick 4 field goals. They need a touchdown here.
Kerryon Johnson takes the direct snap. Straight ahead, touchdown Auburn. Johnson takes it in, the true freshman from Madison, Alabama, and it's an opening drive touchdown for the Auburn Tigers. And they do it on the ground. Jeremy Johnson hit the passes when he had to. Johnson goes 4 for 4 on the drive, but it's Kerryon Johnson who takes it in for the touchdown on the rush.
That was an 11-play drive, Carter. Something that Auburn's had struggled doing, but they look to be humming on all cylinders.
Carlson gets the PAT. Johnson takes it in, and it is an opening statement from the Auburn Tigers. A touchdown right through the heart of the Georgia team. This is where it all begins for Gus Malzahn. This is a long-standing tradition. 10:15 Eastern time, so just over 2 hours, just under 2 hours prior to kickoff. He likes to walk the field, visualize what it will be like when Auburn reaches that point on the field. As an offensive coordinator sharing those duties, likes to think about what play he will call when. And he dialed up the right ones along with Red Lashley on that opening drive for the Auburn Tigers as they take the 7-0 lead. Carter Blackburn, Aaron Taylor, Jenny Dell, Jordan-Hare Stadium. Auburn, who has had trouble with sustained long drives, goes on 11 plays. 4 minutes, 36 seconds. That counts as a long time for Auburn.
That drive couldn't have went any better because it involved big plays. It involved a balanced offense, but more importantly, it involved a perfect Jeremy Johnson, 4 for 4, throwing the football on that first drive.
Carlson's kick brought out by Reggie Davis. Reggie Davis popped at the 25, loose football. Who has it? Georgia maintains possession at the 27. Justin Garrett knocked it free, but Georgia recovers.
Remember, Reggie Davis was injured last week and had to leave the ball game. What appeared to be what looked like a concussion. He took another wallop there. Let's take a listen. That's textbook, Carter.
But Georgia gets back on top of the football. So Grayson Lambert from the shotgun. 1st and 10, Georgia from their 27. Play fake complete. Immediately going to the tight end, Jeb Blazevich. Our Chick-fil-A starting lineup begins with the Georgia quarterback, Grayson Lambert from Jessup, Georgia. Graduate transfer from the University of Virginia. Earned his degree there in anthropology. Brilliant at times at quarterback, like the South Carolina game. Totally ineffective in others. The Missouri game, pretty much mirroring Georgia's season. Only threw it 13 times a week ago in the win over Kentucky. Lambert's going to give up to Sony Michel, who was wrestled down by Chris Frost. Let's take a look at the rest of the Georgia offense.
Well, Sony Michel coming off a career-high 165 yards a week ago against Kentucky. Averaged almost 7 yards per carry. They're going to need a similar day of production out of him if they're going to get out of here with the win.
And Michel still out there effective, even with the broken right hand. You see a noticeably lighter cast today for Sony Michel, much less support.
Ball security will be important.
1st and 10, handoff on the end around. Isaiah McKenzie is wrestled down by Carlton Davis, the solid Auburn corner.
Keep your eye today on number 55, Carl Lawson. He has made a difference for this defense, not necessarily only on the field, but in the locker room as well. This team lacked leadership. Lawson brings that. He's going to be a factor. They'll line him up in a 2-point stance, over tackles, over guards today. 55 needs to be a factor for a defense that has struggled to get themselves up the field all season long on 3rd down.
As the first 6 games with a hip injury. And for the first time today, we see the wild dog quarterback, Godwin. And he's going to take it himself for a 1st down. The true freshman from Hogansville, Georgia, Terry Godwin. Effective wrinkle for Georgia a week ago with Godwin taking the direct snap.
Yeah, he put the ball on the ground, but he was so athletic he picked it up, and that broke that long streak of Georgia's offense of not being able to score a touchdown. I was really impressed with Godwin's ability with the ball fakes. Faked me out a couple times watching it on the TV copy, and when you see it on the game tape, his mechanics are very good at that. That's that eye discipline that the Auburn Tiger defense is going to need today as well. Also look for some play action here. They need some deep shots.
Michel straight ahead. Sony Michel takes it inside the Auburn 40. Chris Frost on the stop.
Carter, we talked about how similar these teams are. I mean, they're virtually identical, very different styles of offense, but again, working the edges, want to come back inside, establish the line of scrimmage, run power, be physical at the point of attack. But again, I think both of these teams need to be able to take some vertical shots and have some big plays, because they're not going to be able to work their way down the field with 10, 12 play drives all game.
Michel's going to take the direct snap. The wild dog is snuffed out this time by the Auburn Tiger defense. It's Frost and Montravius Adams, the defensive tackle. They're on the stop of Sony Michel.
Yeah, and keep your eye up here. Setting the edge is what it is you need to do to force everything back up inside. Carl Lawson's out in the flat, but watch him come downhill right there. He spooks Michel back inside to Montravius Adams. That's a defense that's working together.
Michel to the sideline for 3rd and 5.
This is the down that's given Georgia trouble all season long.
Only 10 teams in the nation worse on 3rd down than the Georgia Bulldogs. Michel takes it, and he is stopped by Auburn. So you have Michel and Godwin both in the backfield for 3rd down, but Auburn was ready. Nick Ruffin leads the tacklers.
Auburn's defense has struggled on that down, but they're playing physical at the point of attack. It looks like Georgia's going to go for it here. I don't know if I necessarily like this call. Maybe a pooch punt it and back Auburn up. But this has been something that they've struggled all season long on fourth down. They're 108th in the country, only converting 2 of their 6 tries so far this year.
And it is Lambert at quarterback for fourth down and 4. Lambert on the rollout. Complete for a Georgia first down. Malcolm Mitchell holds it in, just the 3rd conversion on fourth down for the Bulldogs this year.
And it was a well-executed play. I like the decision to get Lambert outside of the pocket and change his release point, keeping him moving. Auburn's not a big blitz team, but there was some heat there. But very nice ball location for Grayson Lambert. For a quarterback, Carter, that early confidence right there, that play, converting that is going to help him throughout this game.
Final seconds of the first quarter. 8th play of the drive, out of the eye. There's the play action. Lambert comes back to the fullback. Christian Payne inside the 15. Payne will take it to the 11. Ruffin finally makes the stop, but Christian Payne picks up 20 off play action from Lambert on what will be the final play of the first quarter.
That is the end of the first quarter.
So Auburn opens with a touchdown on a sustained drive. Georgia closes the first with a sustained drive. We'll return to Auburn after this message and a word from your local station. Auburn had a sustained drive. Now Georgia getting it rolling, but more through the air from the Georgia Bulldogs. It has put them inside the Auburn 20-yard line. That's good news for Georgia. Bad news is the Bulldogs, one of the reasons they've been inconsistent, red zone struggles.
You have to be able to score touchdowns when you get inside the 20. Every time you kick a field goal, it's the same thing as having a field goal and an extra point block, because you leave those 4 points off of the scoreboard.
Today's Red Zone brought to you by Verizon. You see the number there for Georgia, well under the national average touchdown percentage. Lambert from the shotgun, hands off to Sony Michel on first down. Michel takes it inside the 5. Appears to be just short of the first down marker, so it's 2nd down from inside the 2 for Georgia.
Very nice job up front that time by the Bulldogs. They have some confidence back. This drive, converting that 4th down was a big deal. I didn't think that they should go for it, but I think their ability to convert it has given them some confidence down here. Look for that offensive line to take over or hitting a tight end in the back of the end zone.
This is 2nd down and 1. Payne the fullback. Michel the tailback.
Keep your eye on the tight end.
Michel fumbles the football at the 1. Georgia gets back on top of it. 2nd fumble today by Georgia that they have recovered. 1 on special teams, and now 1 by Sony Michel.
Fumbles were a problem for them a week ago. They had 3 times the football was on the ground. They lost 2 of them. We saw earlier in the game Reggie Davis put the ball on the ground on a kickoff return, and here Sony Michel in the red zone just doesn't handle the ball. That's a basic exchange that Georgia has to do. The Bulldogs got extremely lucky. You have to think that that cast on his hand had a negative effect on that play.
Coming back from the broken right hand. So it's 3rd and 1 for Georgia. Sony Michel's going to take it again, and he's stopped. Bringing up 4th down for the Dogs. Devereaux Lawrence leads the push inside for the Auburn Tigers.
Your Georgia looks like they're going to be going for it here. When you're on the road, we talked about the importance of getting touchdowns. With the way things have gone, I would have taken the points here. I don't like their decision here to go for it on 4th down. They can pick up the 1st down, but I think they're taking a heck of a risk here.
So Mark Richt and Brian Schottenheimer had only gone for it 6 times on 4th down all year. Already the 2nd 4th down attempt. This is 4th and 1. Play clock winding down. Lambert takes it. Play action. Slant incomplete. Intended for Malcolm Mitchell. And Auburn holds Georgia out of the end zone. It's Carlton Davis, who left earlier in the drive, knocks it away in the end zone.
The story of the game has been the Georgia blunders. First it was the fumble by Michel, and then it was the 4th down errant pass that they couldn't get in. It's the big stop, and the Auburn Tiger D finds a way to hold the Bulldogs struggling early on the road.
But now the Auburn offense backed up. 1st and 10 from their own 2-yard line. This is Robinson. Big hole. Javon Robinson breaks it across the 35-yard line. The junior from Memphis, the JUCO National Player of the Year at Georgia Military College, starting to find his legs for Auburn.
We talked about, keep your eye right there, that's Scott left. He was the backup for Sean Coleman when he came in, but because Coleman's there, it was his block that made the difference on that huge pickup. Auburn wanted to hit some big plays. Because of some good blocking up front, they just did.
It's a 33-yard gain. 1st down. Jeremy Johnson pulls it and dances out of bounds for another Auburn 1st down. Apparently, he was right at the 1st down marker. Chains will move.
And there's Robert left, number 98. Again, just a tremendous block there. He's the backup left tackle that would have had to come into the game for Sean Coleman, because Coleman came back. He was able to do what he normally does, which is be an extra tight end up there.
Lewis in motion on 1st down. Robinson gets the carry again. Jordan Jenkins on the stop. Talk about all the expectations for Auburn, and Jeremy Johnson kind of encapsulates that, but Javon Robinson as well. I mean, this was a guy who was expected to be a huge player early on for Gus Malzahn and the Tigers, but he has been ready to roll the past 3 weeks. Third down for Auburn. Pressure coming. Johnson throws an interception. It's picked at the 40. Malcolm Parrish hauls it in. Jeremy Johnson just airmailed it to the Georgia defense.
You cannot throw the football high over the middle. Jeremy Johnson has an extremely high arm. He just overthrew the receiver. It was too high. He was trying to get the football to Tony Stevens, who was wide open, but the ball just comes out too high and puts the football in harm's way. And once again, that Georgia defense comes up. Malcolm Parrish, who had a sack off the edge a week ago, making his presence felt in pass rush this week with a huge interception here in the 2nd quarter.
That looked like Jeremy Johnson at the beginning of 2015.
It sure did.
So Lambert, straight ahead, Sony Michel. He's carrying the load for Georgia today. He takes it to the 45. And Michel has been carrying that load since Nick Chubb injury and Keith Marshall banged up throughout his Georgia career. And now the sophomore from Plantation, Florida, clearly is where Georgia is going to roll.
And they have to feed him. He's been held in check early on in this game, but the run game is often about getting yourself into a rhythm, working up a lather. You can't abandon it. And I give credit to Georgia because they're not doing that. They're going to keep feeding Michel. Eventually, he's going to find room to run.
Jenny will have more on Nick Chubb's rehab later. Sony Michel takes it again. He slips at the 45. Had the 1st down easily, but slipped at the 45. Roberts will be credited with the tackle. And for more, here's Jenny Dell.
Well, yeah, Chubb is performing rehab twice daily, Monday through Friday, and once a day on weekends. He's lifting weights 3 times. Using aquatic therapy for cardio. And as far as his return, Georgia officials said Chubb is expected to make a full recovery by the start of next season. Coach Richt told me he's a positive kid. His spirits are good, and he's making the best of a tough situation.
A very tough situation. That was devastating for Georgia, for everybody who loves Wild Dog. Michel, he's going to hand off McKenzie on the sweep on the edge. Isaiah McKenzie has the 30. As the Bulldogs continue to mix it up as the who's taking the snaps, trying to keep the Auburn defense guessing.
And they're doing a nice job of the play calling there. And they put the ball in Grayson Lambert's hand and given him an opportunity to convert. And to his credit, he converted that last 3rd down. But they've had some opportunities, taking some deep shots. They're going to test this Tiger secondary again at some point.
Almost even on the yards, but as you would expect, Auburn running hurry up. Georgia not. Time of possession. Lambert on play action to complete to McKenzie near a 1st down, maybe a yard short. Countess on the stop.
Very soft coverage that time by Auburn. Grayson Lambert, that was just a simple pitch and catch. McKenzie's been an explosive playmaker for him. Had a fumble a week ago, put the ball on the ground. He's got to be able to protect it, but he seems to be an early favorite of Grayson Lambert, and has come up with some big catches when they've needed it.
Georgia's converted its last 2 3rd down opportunities after the 0-for-3 start.
Man, a run into the boundary here. Looks like they have leverage.
possession. Lambert pressured and sacked back at the 25. Casanova McKenzie drops Grayson Lambert. 4th down for Georgia. McKenzie, the senior from Birmingham, makes the huge play. Lambert slow to get up.
Casanova McKenzie doing a good job. He gets blocked, but he stays alive. Look at that athleticism. He was almost falling down, but he explodes and getting to the legs of Lambert, who was slow to get up. Number 8 has been a playmaker for him. That was a huge stop on 3rd down to force the field goal.
40-yard field goal attempt coming from Marshall Morgan. Missed a 38-yarder last week. The 40-yard field goal attempt spins in. Georgia is on the board. 3 up there for the Dogs, but the Auburn defense has kept Georgia out of the end zone, preserving a 7-3 Tiger lead. We expect to see a lot of different guys take snaps at quarterback today. Grayson Lambert slow getting up on that last Georgia possession, so we saw Bryce Ramsey warming up during that last time out on the Georgia sideline. Meanwhile, for Auburn, the question is, do you stay with Jeremy Johnson, or does Sean White, the redshirt freshman, get another opportunity on this next drive for the Tigers?
It's going to be interesting. The coaches told us that they were going to play Sean White today, but if you play him now after a huge interception by Jeremy Johnson, you run the risk of hurting his confidence. So it's going to be interesting. This is a little bit of where coaches earn their money, because they have to manage not only the playing and their execution, but the mental state of their players. I would expect we see Jeremy Johnson again for at least one more series as a result.
And it is a lot of money they're earning. Let's be clear about that.
Every coach in the SEC West is making $4 million.
Marshall Morgan. Ford will take this from inside the 5. Jonathan Ford across the 20-yard line. Auburn has excelled in kick return. Ford takes it to the 21-yard line. Well, one of the big questions we've got an answer to. Jeremy Johnson is coming out for Auburn, just as you recommended the Tigers do.
I think it's a good move, but run the football.
Instead of screen, Lewis on the outside, called a long handoff. That'll take it to the 25. Thanks, Adam. That's a bad couple of weeks now for Boykin and the Frogs.
The wheels falling off.
Hayden Barber on the 2nd down carry, moves the chains, shakes his way to near the 43-yard line, and it's Mauger who finally shoves him out.
Alex Kozan, the left guard, tremendous block right here. Keep your eye on him. He's going to come around. He's the one that makes the key block to go. This is a pin and pull scheme. You try and create angles, but right there, up inside, just some nice angle blocks that time by the right side of the Tiger offensive line.
And Auburn hurries it up. Johnson, after the handoff to Barber, immediately back into the shotgun, ready for 2nd down in midfield. And here goes number 6 on the draw on 2nd down. Feeling pretty good about that one. Takes it to the 30.
Watch the openness of this defense just kind of go open. That's the threat that Jeremy Johnson does with his legs. He doesn't run it often, but when he does, he's effective. Georgia just vacated their gaps. Auburn took advantage of it, and here they are with a little over 2 minutes here in the 2nd quarter. They've got some momentum on their side.
Robinson and Petway in the backfield. On the sweep, Javon Robinson takes it again to just short of the 1st down marker. It's a pickup of 9. Kimbrough makes the stop.
Very nice job that time by Cameron Petway, the H-back, blocking out there on the edge.
2nd and short. Johnson's going to give it to Javon Robinson again, and the junior from Memphis's Woodale High School pushes the pile. Jake Gaines, the senior from Chelsea, Alabama, makes the stop.
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency for Auburn, but you don't need to rush too fast. It's going to be a 1st down. They've got 3 timeouts. They need to take their time, select their plays smartly, but it's all about execution down here in the red zone. They can ill afford to make mistakes. They don't have to play great. They just have to eliminate bad plays down here, and they're going to walk away with some points.
1st and 10. Johnson dumps it off. That's Marcus Davis on the outside. So Davis on the check down. Sanders pushes him out.
The most impressive part of that dancing was he didn't spill his drink, but notice the very conservative play calling. I don't think that Rhett Lashley and Gus Malzahn want to put this football in harm's way. There's almost a guaranteed field goal for this team. So you want to try and push the football down the field. Maybe you dial up Johnson's legs again. When they've run him, they've had some success.
Johnson out of the shotgun, second down, screen. This is Stevens on the screen, snuffed out immediately by the Georgia defense. And pushing and shoving and talking as Rico McGraw's in there. The headlinesman back down, Bulldog.
We talked about this at the top of the show. This is a rivalry game. It's more intense. It's more physical. These guys all played high school football against one another.
On 3rd and 13, here's Johnson. Johnson's going to dance. It's knocked down, incomplete. So 4th and 13, it's Sterling Bailey who puts the pressure on Jeremy Johnson. And this is what you were talking about play calling earlier. You've got the field goal in your hip pocket nearing the end of the half. And one of the best kickers around in Daniel Carlson.
But you have an opportunity to score touchdowns. You don't want 3. But when you shoot yourselves in the foot on a questionable penalty, the bottom line is the Auburn Tigers there work their way backwards instead of forwards, and they're kicking a field goal as a result.
42-yard attempt to make it 13 straight would be the longest in Auburn football history. Daniel Carlson's 42-yarder make it 13 straight made field goals for the sophomore from Colorado Springs. Meeting number 119, a speedy first half with Auburn on top of Georgia 10-3. Ginny Dell is with Auburn head coach Gus Malzahn.
Coach, you told us the plan coming into the game was to run the football. You've been able to do just that. Is the plan of the second half to mirror the first?
Yeah, we're going to have to run the football, and if we can be successful, we got a good chance of winning. We got to stop the run, and we got to get them off the field on 3rd downs, but our defense is playing well right now.
Should we expect to see Sean White in the second?
We'll see. We'll talk about it, but Jeremy's done a solid job for us.
Thank you, Coach.
The Deep South's oldest rivalry, Georgia and Auburn. That is the end of the first half with a score 10-3, Auburn on Georgia. Now we go to Adam Zucker in our New York studio. Neither team's offense on fire, but still a 10-3 lead for Auburn on Georgia at the half. A moment ago, Ginny Dell spoke with Georgia head coach Mark Richt.
Coach, we saw Grayson Lambert get a little beat up in one of the plays there. Should we expect to see him throughout the second half?
He's fine. He'll be able to play.
Okay, last week we had over 300 rush yards. This week, just 60 in the first half. What do you need to do to get this run game going?
Yeah, just block a little better and finish our runs better. They're doing a nice job, but I think we're on the right track.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Carter Blackburn, Aaron Taylor. Sometimes the game of football can be simple. Run the football, stop the run. That's pretty much what we got here.
Line of scrimmage league. This is a line of scrimmage game. The bottom line in the first half is that Auburn dominated on both sides of the football. Georgia defensively giving up over 8 yards per carry. And up front, they're getting whipped. They've got to bring an extra defender down in the box to try and stop Auburn when they're on offense.
It will be Georgia who gets the football to begin this third quarter. And again, we expect to see Grayson Lambert. We take a look at our first half stats. And of course, we begin with those rush yards, which is exactly what you were saying for Auburn. If you run the football and you're the Auburn Tigers, then you're going to have the lead. It's 10-3 Auburn on Georgia here at the half.
This is really shaping up to kind of be that Georgia run defense that we saw against Florida when they got gassed. But this is an offense that ran for over 300 yards a week ago, as Ginny Dell asked Coach Rick, and he said a moment ago, they've got to be able to start with their fundamental base runs, have some success on 1st and 2nd down. But I think at this point, Grayson Lambert's going to have to make some throws to get that offense going.
Carlson's kickoff. Reggie Davis takes it, hits a knee. So Georgia will have it at the 25 to begin the third quarter with Grayson Lambert there at quarterback. So Ginny asked Mark Richt about this hit and said the Grayson Lambert should be okay, but still something to keep an eye on in the second half for Georgia.
Casanova McKenzie wrapped him up low on his legs, and Lambert was slow to get up. That was a huge stop by the Auburn Tigers. Remember, Lambert's had a couple opportunities to connect on some deep balls, but they've fallen incomplete. They have to get those here in the second half.
Douglas in and running back next to Grayson Lambert. Throwing on 1st down, complete to the outside. Malcolm Mitchell sheds Jonathan Jones and takes it to near the 50.
That was a nice pitch and catch that time by Grayson Lambert. Just being able to deliver the ball. Soft coverage that time by Jonathan Jones. The ball shows up in Mitchell's hands right on time. Nice route, nice catch, big pickup on first down. The Bulldogs have the ball at midfield. This is exactly what they needed to do, because that pass game, Carter, will open up the inside of that run game, what they've struggled to get going today.
The senior from Valdosta told us, I want to say I left UGA beating Auburn because it means even more later in life. Godwin sets up in the wild dog formation here. Terry Godwin, the true freshman from Georgia.
Haven't seen him throw it yet.
Godwin fakes the sweep, takes it around the outside, and gets to the 45-yard line. Well, you see Nick Chubb on the sideline for Georgia, able to travel to this game, but the offensive difference is dramatic with and without Chubb for the Georgia Bulldogs.
I mean, there's no more clear visual reference of the importance of Nick Chubb than what we're looking at right there. This offense has come to a grinding halt, and when you lose one of the conference better players, that's to be expected.
Michel in the wild dog. Fake the sweep. Michel dropped. Little gain, if anything. Chris Frost makes the stop. Third down coming up for the Dogs.
In a situation like this is a battle of wills, but Georgia rushed for 300 yards a week ago, only 89 on the ground. Credit this Auburn defense for getting penetration and finding ways to get themselves off the field. At some point in third and short like this, maybe you trust Grayson Lambert on some play action to one of your tight ends instead of trying to run it once again.
Lambert straight drop. Steps up in the pocket, scrambles for the first down. Lambert dives forward to the 31. Grayson Lambert picks it up himself. Garrett makes the stop after a 13-yard gain.
He was being able to try and hit his receiver right here, but it was good coverage that time by Auburn. Offensive line doing a nice job, and Lambert just sees it. Everybody's covered and does the right thing. That middle of that defense opens up. Use your legs to move the chains. Very nice run that time by 11. Pretty good pass coverage all afternoon by Auburn Tigers. First half as well. Very impressive.
Sony Michel takes it again on first down. The sophomore from Plantation, Florida, picks up just a couple. Don't forget, later in the game, the play of the game presented by Napa Auto Parts. This was predicted to be a tight game between Auburn and Georgia, even if there's not a trip to Atlanta on the line and those lofty hopes of an SEC title in the college football playoff like the Tigers and the Bulldogs had hoped in 2015. But a tight one, and we got it, with Georgia trying to maintain the offensive momentum. Lambert, play fake. Throw it back, complete at the 25. That's Jay Rome, the senior, with just the 6th catch of his senior year.
Moving the release point on a bootleg pass to your tight end. That's what I thought that they would have run on third down there. That brings up third and short form. But Lambert doing a nice job of being a point guard and distributing the football here on this drive. This is an important drive for Georgia. Remember, they went for it on fourth down and got stopped. That was a huge momentum shift. This is as close as they've been to the goal line since then. They got to find a way to pick this up.
It's Michel and Godwin in the backfield. Godwin takes a direct snap. Godwin almost slips out. There is a flag down as the Tigers drag him back down at the 31-yard line. But we'll check the flag. Lawson and Countess there on the stop of Godwin on the wild dog.
Personal foul, grasping the face mask. Number 23 in the defense. Almost half the distance to the goal line. Automatic first down.
On Jonathan Ford, their leading tackler, just a costly penalty after a great stop. That time, Carl Lawson, we talked about how disruptive he was. The thing that the coaches told us he lacked was an ability to close on the play. Does a nice job there, but it's negated by a penalty.
I mean, maybe the finger. It looked like almost a clean tackle by Ford on the shoulder pass, but maybe snuck the finger up to that face mask. That's a costly finger on a face mask.
I agree with you, Carter, but they called it and it was accurate.
1st and 10, Georgia. Lambert back in at QB from the shotgun. Michel pushing inside the 10, right around the 10. So Georgia into the red zone. Our red zone today brought to you by Verizon. And it has been 2 trips into the red zone for Georgia. 0 touchdowns. The only points on the board for the Bulldogs at field goal. So Auburn has done a nice job holding them out of the end zone once Georgia has crossed the 20. Michel again. Pushing inside the 5. Sony Michel makes it 3rd and short for the Dogs inside the Auburn 5.
Really nice run that time by Sony Michel. That's the sort of thing that Coach Richt was talking about wanting to see at his run back. Sometimes as a running back, Carter, you got to be your own blocker. And what I've been impressed with Sony Michel is that he breaks arm tackles and runs behind his pads, as they say, which means he puts his head down and he goes. And that was a perfect example of it.
And now 3rd and 2.
Jay Rome and Jeb Blazevich, the tight ends for Georgia, going to be on the right side of this offensive line.
McKenzie takes it on the sweep into the end zone. Isaiah McKenzie, touchdown Georgia.
Credit Brian Schottenheimer for finding ways to take advantage of the leverage that they create outside. Excellent job that time by Jeb Blazevich to snatch the end. But the Bulldogs beating Auburn at their own game, running a speed sweep.
4-yard touchdown run for Isaiah McKenzie. A PAT good from Marshall Morgan to tie it at 10 with 1:20 to go in the 3rd. Both of these teams have had to get creative offensively to move the football. Georgia with the sweep to finally get in the end zone here.
And it all goes back to that face mask, Jonathan Ford. I agree with you. It was close, but it was there. And that was hugely costly because it allows Georgia to get back in this game. Just some tremendous blocking this time. That's Mitchell on that outside edge, doing enough to be able to tangle up with the impressive true freshman Carlton Davis. That was an extremely well orchestrated drive by the Georgia Bulldogs, and a very important one that was timely in this game.
A little tricky there as Lambert came away. It looked like he was faking a fumble a little bit to maybe even add some more distraction, but McKenzie takes it in. Now we have a 10-10 game. Jonathan Ford getting some coaching on that Auburn sideline after the face mask penalty helped Georgia get into the end zone.
In the defensive ball game, points are very important and hard to come by. Remember, Georgia's decision to go for it on 4th down could be costly.
Johnson from inside the 5. Carry on Johnson. Tripped up, only gets back out to the 20. Does Henry win the Heisman?
I don't think so. I'd need to see more. I wouldn't count Leonard Fournette out. Everybody wants to throw away his season because he had one bad game. Credit Alabama's front 7 for having a lot to do with that. Their offensive line did not play very well. LSU's didn't. And I don't think you should penalize Fournette as a result.
See the Tide against Dak Prescott and Mississippi State. Up next, Sean White quarterbacking Auburn. 2nd straight possession. Gone to the redshirt freshman who's coming back from a left knee injury. We saw him hobbling on the last series, but back out there for the Tigers. On 2nd and 10, White looks to throw and leaves it high and incomplete, intended for Ricardo Lewis, and we're already at 3rd and 10.
2 incompletions to start this drive. This is not the start that Auburn or Sean White would want to be able to have. You have to protect the football. Sorry about that, Carter. You cannot put the football in jeopardy. Auburn's already turned it over once. They can ill afford to have another turnover, particularly at this point on the field. I would expect a safe play call here.
0 for their last 5 on 3rd down. White hit as he throws, heaves it incomplete. He was crushed. And now 2 for 7 on 3rd down overall for Auburn. It was Lorenzo Carter who popped Sean White. The Georgia sideline celebrates.
Just a speed rush off that outside edge. Beating the right tackle, Avery Young. He's going to come here with a clear path. What you like as a football player is your ability to be able to close and bend that hole. Sean White with pressure does the right thing and throws the football away.
Limited to think that Jeremy Johnson will be back out there for the Auburn Tigers' next offensive possession.
You add that to the fact that we saw Sean White limping. I'd be surprised if we didn't see Jeremy Johnson back in the game.
McKenzie, fair catch, grabs it at the 45-yard line.
Georgia in the second half has almost matched its first half rushing. That run game got dialed up. Whatever adjustments they made have been working.
From the 45, Sony Michel. Hit from behind, hit from the front as Michel gets across the 50-yard line. Back to that injury on the sideline.
Yeah, we saw McGraw there, but keep your eye on his coach. He smacks him with the right hand, trying to congratulate him.
Wow.
McGraw goes down.
Talk about friendly fire.
Man.
We hope to see McGraw back out there for Georgia. Yikes.
Not looking happy there.
No. 2nd and 4. Michel tries to bounce it outside. 3rd down and short with the end of the 3rd coming. So just as we had hoped and anticipated, we go to the 4th quarter, 10-10 between Georgia and Auburn. We'll return to Auburn right after this and a word from your local station. And that one word abounds around Georgia and Auburn. The 119th meeting goes to the 4th quarter in a tie game, 10-all between the Bulldogs and the Tigers. Carter Blackburn, Aaron Taylor, Jenny Dell, our CBS crew. Georgia and Auburn with Alabama and Mississippi State to follow. And we begin the 4th quarter with 3rd down for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Been a complete flip-flop. Georgia's offensive line has looked outstanding here in the second half. We got another opportunity to pick up a key 3rd down here.
Grayson Lambert on 3rd and short. Crossing complete. That's Douglas out of the backfield who makes the grab and gets just enough to move the chains. Brendan Douglas.
I really like what he was doing here, trying to keep your eye. He starts out, he's looking over here. There's nobody there, so he brings his vision backside and able to hit Brendan Douglas out of the backfield, who just sneaks out right there. Great patience and use of his eyes by Grayson Lambert to pick up the 1st down.
Georgia finished its last drive with a lone touchdown of the day for the Dogs. But they have missed opportunities at the end of drives against Auburn.
Makes a signal there, and you see Jones bails out.
Play action. Lambert, deep shot from Mitchell again. Laying out, incomplete. Flag down. Mitchell and Jonathan Jones tangled up at the goal line. Pass interference on the offense is the call.
Number 26 of the offense. 15-yard penalty. 1st down.
Grayson Lambert saw something he liked with that tight coverage. Keep your eye on his right hand. He removes it. He signals right there. He's signaling to the receivers. You see Jones, the cornerback, knows what's coming. It's going to be a deep shot, which is why he bails. Even though Jones knew what was coming, he still interferes with the receiver, Mitchell. And another costly penalty. And we're going to take a look at this again. Georgia's going to get another shot at this, but that's film study, Carter. Trust your eyes what you see. Jones was on top of that.
Another missed deep shot by Georgia. Call it 1st and 25. Lambert pressured again, throws it on the busted screen intended for Sony Michel. Casanova McKenzie lays another lick on Grayson Lambert.
Casanova McKenzie's just going to come upfield and then underneath. Again, another overset by John Theus, the right tackle. You can't open the barn door like that as an offensive lineman. You have to set tighter or you're going to give up another pressure. We saw again earlier in the game, McKenzie get to Lambert's legs, and Lambert came up limping. Georgia's got an issue there today at the right tackle spot.
Oh, the barn door was open.
Second and extremely long for the Bulldogs.
A turnaround handed off Sony Michel. Bounces to the outside, has some room. Michel down at the 45. Here's another flag.
Holding. Number 16, the offense. 10-yard penalty. Second down.
I believe he said number 16. That would be Isaiah McKenzie outside on that perimeter. Georgia's going the wrong way.
You're Georgia now. I mean, just get out of here.
Right there, number 16 on the hash. You're supposed to absorb it, but right there he grabs forward. He holds his hands up. That's the number one telltale sign. Don't ever do that. That's saying, hey, look, I just did something wrong.
You're literally raising your hand to the officials. Second and 40. Douglas straight ahead. Safe to say this sets up third down and long for the Georgia offense.
As an offense, the objective is to move the football down the field in a forward manner. Georgia has not gotten that. Georgia doesn't seem to have gotten that memo, because this brings up a 3rd and 37, Carter. Costly mental errors with those penalties have put the Bulldogs in a rough spot.
But you never know.
You never know. We saw it 4th and 25 a week ago. Arkansas finding a way to convert. Inside and in front is all Auburn's defense needs to worry about.
Play clock at zeros.
Delay a game. Offense. Okay, penalty. Third down.
We've seen Georgia forced to take 3 timeouts to avoid delay of game, and now finally a delay of game to push it even further back.
Georgia might want to consider punting here on 3rd down before they lose any more yardage.
Third
and 41, Carter. This is the best drive Auburn's had in the second half.
4 penalties on this drive after 0 in the first 3 quarters for Georgia. So it's Douglas straight ahead. They elect to run it on 3rd and 41 rather than punting it. Now we will see Georgia punt it. Oh, man. I mean, just got to figure Georgia at this point is just run the football, get it to 4th down, and try and get some field position back.
When you're struggling offensively to execute, you don't want to put the football in harm's way. Running the football is the safest way to do that in a tight defensive ball game. 10-10 here at the top of the 4th quarter. I think Georgia's trying to be safer than sorrier, and so far so good. We'll see if that holds true down the stretch.
Ramsey, another good punt. Remember, this is the 3rd-string quarterback. He was warming up to potentially play quarterback again, but Ramsey puts a good one. 47 yards. That's a good end to the drive for Georgia.
It's really been a tale of 2 halves. I would agree with you, Carter, that on both sides of the line of scrimmage, Auburn dominated in the first half, but it's been a complete 180. Georgia's been able to run the football extremely effectively here in the second half, and Auburn hasn't gotten anything going offensively, let alone on the ground.
So Nick Chubb there trying to coach up Sony Michel. Nick Chubb, the injured Georgia running back, still trying to do as much as he can, which is such a tough position when you're injured and away from your teammates most of the time.
It's so hard being out. A lot of people think that the physical injury is the toughest part of it, but the rehab on a day-to-day basis physically is quite a bit more painful. But the mental part, being separate and away from, is the hardest thing for an athlete.
For more, here's Jenny Dell.
Yeah, after Auburn's last offensive series, I saw Coach Malzone look over at Sean White, and White gave him a thumbs up. So I know we're speculating about that left knee, but he seems to be all right. As you see, he's out there.
Indeed, 1st and 10. It is Sean White on 3 and out. The last 2 possessions for Auburn, and a slow start to this one as Robinson only gets maybe a yard.
It's pretty clear Mark Richt and his staff had a talking to both of their defensive or their line units, if you will, the front seven on the defense and the offensive line, because it's been a 180. Auburn has had no room to run up inside and hasn't had any time to be able to throw and complete any balls here. 27 second half yards so far. The Bulldogs defense has been tightening up.
On 2nd and 8. Robinson left side. Set up 3rd down, and here we are again. Auburn 3rd down with Sean White trying to get a 3rd down conversion, which is something White has not done. And now for 3rd down, here's Jeremy Johnson.
I like this move. Sean White's been given an opportunity, but his location of the football and his accuracy. Remember, you generate your power with your throws with your legs, and if you're fighting an injury, it takes some of the velocity off the ball and can affect accuracy as well.
Lloyd showing pressure off the edge on 3rd down. Johnson in trouble in the backfield. Jeremy Johnson just goes down back at the 6-yard line. The Georgia defense stiffening in the 2nd half.
That's going to be Jordan Jenkins. He's going to be coming down on this side and make his way to the quarterback, Jeremy Johnson. He's that jack linebacker. Just gets there unabated. You can't turn a guy like that free. You have to slow him down. But once again, Georgia's defense tightening up, forcing a punt.
2nd sack for Georgia. So Kevin Phillips will have to hit this one from his own end zone. Punting from the R in Auburn. Just to get the snap off. The dangerous Isaiah McKenzie grabs it at the 46. McKenzie sprinting ahead. Isaiah McKenzie inside the 20. Georgia on top. 9:29 to go in the 4th. Isaiah McKenzie. The 4th time in his career Isaiah McKenzie has returned a punt for a touchdown, and this one gives Georgia the lead. 53 yards on the punt return for a touchdown for Isaiah McKenzie.
Such an explosive playmaker. Look at that big wide open holes in that defense. He just circles them and runs out, picks up a couple key blocks. Guys sticking with him, making good decisions, not getting blocks in the back. And McKenzie's speed and explosion does the rest.
Marshall Morgan on for the PAT. 3 straight 3-and-outs for the Auburn offense. So they have to punt it. They have to punt it to Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie didn't even hit the turf until this. Oh, come on, QB. When they needed you most. These are the 2nd half possessions for Auburn. There's been nothing offensively for the Tigers.
And credit Georgia. They've been winning at the point of attack along the line of scrimmage, causing some pressure. But remember also, very early on in this 2nd half, Auburn made a quarterback change, putting Sean White in. I think the Tigers' best chance to win this game is get Jeremy Johnson back in there.
Morgan squib kick picked up by Kerryon Johnson. Popped hard as he reaches the 22-yard line. Now to begin this drive for Auburn, looking for anything offensively, it's Sean White again, the redshirt freshman, back out there at quarterback.
I don't like it. I'll put Jeremy Johnson back in there.
Screen to the outside, Marcus Davis. Gain of half a yard, and the Georgia defense. Success, the Auburn offense, lack of success continues. I mean, that's the first completion for Sean White. He has 1 passing yard now.
Yeah, and this Georgia defense is running around, man. They're flying to the football. You can feel the momentum shift here, and they're bringing pressure.
White pressured, hit, loose football. Georgia has it. The Bulldogs take it at the 17-yard line. Georgia gets the takeaway, and that Bulldog defense that has been stout in the 2nd half has one of its biggest plays yet.
Look at Aaron Davis. He's up in here peeking. He's going to be able to come off that outside edge. He's looking right in at the quarterback, and nobody adjusts.
The ruling on the previous play is a fumble recovered by the defense. This play is now under video review.
Georgia brings one more player than Auburn's able to pick up, and it looks like he wanted to start to throw it, but I don't think he was definitively throwing that football, Carter. I think this is going to stand. I think that that's a fumble.
After video review, the ruling on the field stands. First down, Georgia.
I think they got that right. That's what it looked like to me. He was moving his arm back to throw the football, but he gets hit in the middle of doing that, and that momentum carried his arm forward. He wasn't in the act of throwing it forward. What an unbelievable stop for Georgia to getting the football inside the red zone, an area that they've struggled. Let's see if the Auburn Tiger defense can find a way to respond, and at the very least, force Georgia to kick a field goal here.
Second takeaway, they've gotten one each from the Auburn quarterbacks. Lambert under center. Sony Michel dropped back at the 20. Tackled for loss on first down by Devereaux Lawrence, the junior from Greenville, South Carolina.
Second half of that A&M game, Devereaux Lawrence got some good penetration. They like to move him around a lot. Penetration leads to lost yardage plays, and that's just bad communication that time up front by the Bulldogs. You got to get a hat on a hat when you're combination blocking. You got to be shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip. You can't afford to let yourself get split there. That was a good start to the series by Auburn.
Lambert on second down. Michel stood up, gets back to the line of scrimmage. It's third and long for Georgia from the Auburn 20.
Carter, I think there's more at stake here than just points. I think it's very important for Auburn defensively to be able to get a stop here, because the momentum has clearly shifted in this stadium. A stop could have a chance of getting this crowd back in it. They need the crowd noise to get elevated here, but nothing's gone right a whole lot for Auburn in the second half. They got to pin their ears back and find a way to get this ball to stop, as you see Grayson Lambert there underneath center.
In a big fourth quarter for the Bulldogs and for Mark Richt. Run it again on third down, so maybe playing for the field goal with Marshall Morgan, the senior from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who hit a 40-yarder earlier, but missed a 38-yarder at the end of the half last week.
Well, I think they learned from their first half mistake of being too aggressive when they went for it on fourth down inside the 5-yard line and got stopped. I think this is the best call for Georgia here to kick this field goal. And how about that Auburn defense responding after the huge turnover to force this field goal here? Georgia lost yards on that last series.
Straight ahead from 38 for Marshall Morgan. Easily good, and Georgia has a 10-point lead on Auburn as the Tigers and the Bulldogs getting even tougher with 6:49 to go in the fourth. The Georgia defense forces the fumble. The takeaway by the Dogs leads to 3 more for Mark Richt, and Georgia at a 10-point lead in the fourth in Auburn. Marshall Morgan's kickoff, another line drive, taken by Jonathan Ford. Across the 25-yard line, Ford ridden down at the 27. Crossing midfield now at the 48. Straight ahead, Barber lowers the pass, gets to the 41.
Yeah, use some tempo here if you're the Auburn Tigers, and they are. Stress this defense of the Bulldogs. This is where you're strongest.
As fast as they can go. Barber again. This time the Dogs pile on. Got a couple yards though, so third and short coming up. Jake Gaines there on the stop.
That's exactly what you want. If you went for it on that last fourth down, you got to assume it's 4-down territory. Just hit the gas pedal. This is what worked for him early in the game. Bounce it.
Barber bounces outside, first down and more inside the Georgia 30.
There's confusion on Georgia's defense. The tempo really stresses them. It's hard to get aligned. It's hard to communicate, and Auburn knows that. They're using it to their advantage right now.
No substitutions for Auburn, so no substitutions for Georgia. Johnson with Davis in motion. Jeremy Johnson throw back. That's Davis with a block ahead. Inside the 10. Takes it to the 7. Marcus Davis finally brought down by Carter and Sanders.
The backup center, Devontae Danzy, started 7 games a year ago at guard, but look how he gets flat and comes back. Unbelievable for the big man, hustling his tail up to get out there with a huge block for the big pickup.
Lewis in motion on 2nd and 4. Straight ahead, Peyton Barber. It will be 3rd down and 2 from the Georgia 5.
Well, we've seen earlier in this ball game when Jeremy Johnson was in there, we've seen his legs, Carter. He's done a good job dialing up his own number, whether that's a quarterback power or a traditional zone read. Keep your eye on number 6. This might be a good time. We haven't seen him run it much here in the second half. This might be the time to do it.
3:34 to go. 3rd and 2. Johnson to Lewis. He's going to cut it back the other way. Ricardo Lewis straight ahead. Loose football. Right at the goal line. Who has it? Auburn football. No, it's Georgia football. The Bulldogs get the takeaway at the goal line. Ricardo Lewis, the hero of the prayer play. 73 yards. Fumbles at the goal line. Georgia gets the takeaway, keeping Auburn out of the end zone.
Anytime you reverse field, you lose sight of who's coming after you. And he just gets the ball stripped out. What a huge turnover by Auburn. But the Bulldogs, with so much on the line, finding a way to get it done.
20-10, Georgia on Auburn, 3:22 to go. The last 2 Auburn drives have ended in fumbles. Douglas in the backfield. Lambert's going to keep it on 1st down. Just trying to get any kind of breathing room down near the goal line.
Look like there's a little bit of movement on the right side of that offensive line.
First charge time out of the half, Auburn.
Well, that's amazing for Auburn. Only 2 fumbles all year long. Then back-to-back possessions in the 4th quarter against Georgia. They give it up, the 2nd one at the goal line.
Center quarterback exchange is so important. Georgia needs to pay attention to ball security here too.
Lambert to Douglas, pushed back. Where was his forward progress stopped? Just past the 1. So Douglas got enough. 3rd down coming up. Auburn uses another timeout. 3:13 to go.
Auburn.
Only 1 timeout left for Auburn here. 3:13. They've brought up 3rd and 9.
Georgia may have to win this with defense. You're taking a heck of risk if you do anything here except try and run the football and create some room for your punter. So Auburn will likely get this ball back. They got to be careful here.
Douglas straight ahead, gets it out of the end zone, gets it to the 4.
3rd and final charge timeout of the half.
Why the Deep South's oldest rivalry? Because North Carolina and Virginia would officially be the South's oldest, so therefore the Deep South's oldest. Ramsey punts it from the G. Davis takes it at the 47. Davis picking his way back to the 37-yard line. So 2 minutes, 56 seconds left for Auburn, needing 2 scores. They don't have a timeout.
Here's what's interesting. Ricardo Lewis is averaging 15.6 yards per catch this year. He can't let his head hang too low because they may need to be able to come back to him. There's plenty of time for them to get a score here, but they have to watch the clock without timeouts, and preferably you'd want to get a touchdown first so that you can get an onside kick and only have to kick a field goal to tie it up.
Jeremy Johnson is the quarterback for Auburn.
Couldn't ask for better field position if you're the Tigers. Point of pressure.
Picked up. Johnson delivers. It's Lewis. Go right back to him on 1st down. He had the fumble at the goal line. Lewis makes that grab at the 28.
Well, Ricardo Lewis has been their best receiving option so far this year, so that doesn't surprise me. That should get some of the jitters off. He's got to get his head back in this game. He could make a play to get some back in it.
To the outside, that's Davis. Stopped short of the first down, so third down coming up. Rico McGraw makes the stop.
I would feed Peyton Barber inside, let that offensive line do its thing, and try and get the pickup.
On third and short, here's Barber. Slips away from the first tackler, has enough for the first down at the 25. Move the chains, stop the clock at 2:12 temporarily. Floyd on the stop.
Great second effort there by Barber. And this is what Auburn needs to do, is hit the gas pedal. You see a lot of hands on the hips for Georgia looking over to the sideline. Jeremy Johnson needs to be efficient how he runs this offense.
Under 2 minutes, 2-score game. Slow getting the play off. Johnson from the shotgun, checks it down. Barber. That's a lot of time used to get just 3 yards for Auburn.
There was confusion before that last play. You saw Rhett Lashley signaling into the sidelines. Jeremy Johnson not knowing what to go, but here it's a little bit better execution on their play call.
Second down, back to the quick trigger. Johnson out of the pocket. He's ridden out right around the 20-yard line, stopping the clock with 1:24. Lorenzo Carter shoves him out.
I said that Auburn didn't have to worry too much about time based on their field location, but to your point, Carter, they have not managed this series very well. Just too much time off the clock for the little amount of advancement that they've gotten. It's third down. I'd look to work the edges a little bit. Don't put the ball in harm's way by letting Jeremy Johnson throw it over the middle.
3rd and 6. Johnson over the middle. It's incomplete. Contact, no flag. Intended for Tony Stevens. Dominic Sanders in coverage. 4th down for Auburn, down by 10.
Georgia's done a nice job in coverage so far today, and this brings up the field goal. That's fine. You got 1:19 left. Assuming they make this field goal, I would imagine that they would go for an onside kick, and if they get that possession, that's when this game's going to get fun.
He's made 13 straight, Daniel Carlson. This one from 38. The 38-yarder from Carlson is good. So it's back to a touchdown game with 1 minute 14 seconds left. Carlson has the field goal, and Carlson will have the onside kick. Mark Richt and the Bulldogs trying to escape. Auburn not only with a win over their rival, but a big win for Mark Richt. And the momentum he's trying to bring back to the Georgia program at the end of 2015.
I want to know what he told his team at halftime, because the Bulldogs came out in the second half and didn't look like themselves. They were dominant on both sides of the line of scrimmage here early. They've got to focus here. This is a big moment in this game.
Carlson's onside kick. Picked up by Georgia easily. Malcolm Mitchell falls on it. Auburn doesn't have a timeout. It's Georgia football with a touchdown lead, and that will do it.
That was the ball game. Credit the Georgia Bulldogs for finding a way. Malcolm Mitchell's at the bottom right of your screen. It squirts through the front 3 defenders. Don't even look for the football. That was an extremely well-designed play. Malcolm Mitchell was heads up, covers it up, and ball security, the thing that was the thorn in the side for Auburn, might have just won this game for the Bulldogs.
No timeouts for Auburn, so just a need watching the clock roll. And for Mark Richt, this is win number 7 at the end of 2015. He told us yesterday, any season when you're at Georgia and you don't make the SEC championship game is a disappointment. He says this season is a disappointment. But the reality now for Georgia is they're 7-3. They have Georgia Southern against a struggling Georgia Tech team and then a bowl game. There's a possibility that Georgia wins 10 games in 2015, and then all the pressure around Mark Richt begins to dissipate, and it may be happening right now here in Auburn.
He's always performed at a high level when he's had a quarterback on the roster, and Jacob Eason comes in One of the better drop back passers, and man, what an unbelievable turn of events here for Georgia. Outstanding effort in the second half. They won this ball game in the second half in the trenches.
Georgia's won now 8 of the last 10. They take the lead in the overall series for the first time since 1986. Georgia's a 20-13 winner over Auburn. So for Aaron Taylor, Ginny Dell, our entire crew, I'm Carter Blackburn saying so long from Auburn, where meeting number 119 in the Deep South's oldest rivalry goes to Georgia in come-from-behind fashion on the Auburn Tigers. The Ram postgame show is up next. After these messages and a word from your local station.